Good day, class. So today we are going to talk about the Battle of Appomattox and then the surrender at Appomattox. Um, Now we're at the home stretch of the Civil War. We are not completely done yet. We still have the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, which will come up next. Okay, but today we're going to be talking about Appomattox. So without further ado, let us begin. Okay, so now the warm up. So go ahead and make a list of things you see. Okay, pay attention to the background, the foreground, the people, things like that. Okay, now for those of you guys who have the packet, you already have that section for you. You already can see the questions, so go ahead and answer those. For those of you guys who did not get a packet and you just got the link, um, write down first question, a list of things you see. Now the second question is for you to predict what kind of speech Abraham Lincoln is giving. Do you think he's giving a campaign speech, a war speech, or a inauguration speech? An inauguration speech is basically the speech they give when they're elected president. So what kind of speech do you think he's giving and why? So before we move on, I would like to remind you guys that this is a recording. So you can take your time on this video. You can pause, you can uh, rewind in a sense, and hear the stuff over again. Okay, so you don't have to go at my pace. You can go at your own. Okay, just remember that you are in control. Okay, so let us begin the notes. Now, the warm-up question, that picture was Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address. Now, there's a famous myth that Lincoln wrote the speech on his way to Gettysburg, that he was on the train, on the carriage, and he's just writing it off the top of his head. That's not true. The true fact is the speech was already written, but the thing is, the famous myth comes from Lincoln rewriting the speech, and he did that for a lot of his speeches. He rewrote them. He changed up the words. He had this type of pattern and rhythmic way of writing things, almost a sense of kind of like preaching, but also poetic. Again, he was a very, very good speaker and writer. But the thing is, he did not write the whole thing on the way to the um, to Gettysburg. Now, of all his great speeches, Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address is the shortest one given. Okay, now just to give you a sense of this, um, his speech was given so quickly that the people in the far back, and mind you, there was thousands of people, the people in the far back didn't even get to hear it. By the time they realized that he already spoke, it was already too late. The speech was done. And so people are like, well, what did he say? You know, they had no idea he was already speaking, that he already finished. Now, if you look at to the picture to your right, that guy you can see with the kind of a basically not dead center, but a little below, that's Abraham Lincoln. And he's basically leaving. Okay. He already did his speech. The photographer barely had time to take a picture of him. Okay. There's only like 2 or 3 pictures of him at Gettysburg giving the speech, and this is one of them. And this one was magnified. Okay. Now the Gettysburg Address is considered his greatest speech ever written and given, even though it was short. Now, before I move on to the Gettysburg Address, which what you see right now in front of you, um, let me let me basically tell you that for your midpoint question, you will have to refer back to this because the questions do evolve around the Gettysburg Address. So if you didn't understand it the first time, you may have to rewatch it to fully be able to answer the questions. Okay, so here we go. So here is the Gettysburg Address. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But, in a large sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task reminded before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. Now your midpoint question is this. Why do you think that this speech is considered his best speech? The second question is, give your honest opinion about the speech. So here's how you could start it off. The first part, I think this was considered his best speech because, and give your answer. And then again, this is your honest opinion. So if you want to, you can rewatch the video to that portion and listen to it again. Read it for yourself without me reading it and give your honest opinion. I want to know what you think. So how you get started? In my honest opinion, I think this speech and whatever you think. Now we get to the Battle of Appomattox. Now in March 1865, General Philip Sheridan, he basically overruns General Lee and blocks his retreat. Now, when he blocks his retreat, Lee is basically, in a sense, kind of surrounded. Now, 6,000 prisoners were taken at Sailor's Creek. Now, these are 6,000 Confederates. Okay, that's a large portion of Lee's army. Now, April 9th, Confederate Major General John B. Jordan, he basically did a last offensive attack, basically a bum rush. And it was successful, but the thing is, it still wasn't enough. The Confederates were still overrun, and they were outnumbered. And it got to the point where General Lee, remember, a very smart man, very tactician, very wise when it comes to war. Lee basically saw that he was cut off from his provision and any type of support. And basically he knew that was it. They're surrounded. They're not getting any help in any which way, whether it comes in food or men or weapons. So he said, there is nothing left supposed for me to do but to go and see General Grant, and I would rather die 1,000 deaths. Now, Lee sent word to Grant about his readiness to surrender the Army of the Northern Virginia. Now, this is huge because you have to remember Lee was the man. Both sides wanted him. And yet, now, the greatest soldier that West Point ever made basically has to surrender to one of the worst students that came out of West Point. So, word gets to Grant, and Lee and him decide to meet at the front parlor at the Appomattox Courthouse. Now, the funny thing is, this courthouse is owned by Wilmer McLean. Now, if you remember from several lessons ago at the Battle of First Bull Run, where the cannon shot through a guy's house, that was Wilmer McLean. Wilmer McLean would later say that the Civil War started in his front yard and ended in his front porch. Now, Lee comes to the meeting, and it's funny because he's dressed in his best outfit with a sash, sword, like a true gentleman, true soldier, warrior general. And Grant comes in with his field uniform with mud splattered all over his legs, up to his waist, you know. And then when it comes to the terms of surrender, Grant said that all the men and officers would be pardoned. They would be allowed to go home. They could keep their private property and their horses. Not only that, the officers could keep their sidearms, and the starving men, all of them, would be given Union rations. Now, with those terms, Lee agrees. And in the mid-afternoon of April 9th, 1865, the Civil War is practically over. Now, your last question is this. Taking into consideration all those who died or were wounded, do you think that the Civil War was worth it? Second question is, do you think there is any current issue that has the country split in two that might cause another civil war? And why do you think it's splitting the country? So for the first part, you could start it off with, I think the Civil War, you could say was worth it, wasn't worth it, because, and you can explain. Okay. The second part is a current issue I believe is tearing this country in two is, and you can name the issue. What do you believe and why? Why is this issue splitting the country? That's what I'm looking for your explanation. So, once you finish this, you are basically done with this lesson. Now, when you go back to class, make sure that you have your name on the paper and that you turn it into the black wire basket next to my door. Okay. Again, be sure you put your name on it because I've already had a lot of students turn in work without their name on it, and I don't know who it is. So be sure you put your name on it. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. We still have one more lesson left, and that's the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And I do really hope you make it to class to see this one. But if you can't, I will make another video for that. Okay, so good job. I'm sure you all did an excellent job, and I hope to see you in class. Okay, so have a good day. Bye-bye.